Hi, this is me again, Mr. J, the one and only MGTOWTheJoker, back with another video. You know, there's a lot of videos running around in the internet asking men if men should marry, or when men should marry, or if they should marry at all. But there is one particular video in YouTube I saw about a certain celebrity asking a woman if she was out of order. The video was titled, "A Woman Out of Order." And that struck me. It was a very interesting video. But I couldn't help to think, are men out of order? After the video was over, I realized that the host was just playing into that woman's insecurity. And to be honest, it rubbed me the wrong way because they mixed Christianity in the conversation and the video didn't go anywhere. The woman ended up being roasted by the host, which is fine because I believe that anyone who appear in those types of shows deserve what they got from the host. Now, in my opinion, if you're a man of value, there's a certain code that you must follow. That's what keeps you grounded. It keeps you moving forward and it keeps you succeeding in life. And it is based on your belief system. The problem that we're having nowadays is that we're not following that code anymore because it is believed to be corrupted. We just cease to use it and study it. And let me tell you a secret. Feminists hate that code because they would like to get rid of it. In my opinion, feminists are not against men. They're against masculinity. In Christianity, the pure form of masculinity is Christ himself. So they are determined to get rid of him. In this video, I will show you the actual marriage code. If you stick till the end, I promise that you will have a clear understanding of what the code is about. And like always, I'll give you a contribution on what I think about this subject so it can help you to move forward in the future. Let it be known that I am not telling you to get married, but at least you have a clear understanding of what you are getting yourself into should you decide to go through the ringer. But before we continue, remember to follow me on Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram. And without further ado, let's get this video started.
Two can play that game. Because you are a joke. You're a joker.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and start real quick. Let me go ahead. So this is the actual thumbnail for the video. And first we're going to go ahead and talk about the origins of marriage so you understand first what's going on. All right, so the origins of marriage. This is an article made by the Wick, and it was made on January 1, 2007. It gives you a clear view of the origins of marriage. So if you're interested, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the description below. So basically what it says here is that how old is the institution? The first thing you need to know that this institution of marriage it's 4,350 years old. It was made before Christianity. You know, the first recorded evidence of a marriage ceremony uniting one woman and one man dated from 2,350 before Christ in Mesopotamia. Over the next several years, marriage evolved into a widespread institution embraced by the ancient Hebrew, Greeks, and Romans. But back then, marriage had little to do with love or with religion. Okay? So, what was it about then? Marriage's primary purpose was to bind a woman and a man, and thus guarantee that a man's children were truly his biological heirs. Throughout marriage, a woman become a man's property. In the betrothal ceremony of ancient Greek, a father would hand on over his daughter with these words: "Pledge my daughter for the purpose of producing legitimate offsprings." All right. So let's go ahead and continue on. When did religion become involved? It says here that as the Roman Catholic Church became a powerful institution in Europe, the blessings of a priest became a necessary step for a marriage to be legally recognized. By the 8th century, marriage was a widespread, it was widely spread, accepted in the Catholic Church as a sacrament or a ceremony to bestow God's grace. Okay? It says, did this change the nature of marriage? Well, it says church blessing did improve a lot of wives. Men were taught to show greater respect for their wives and forbidden from divorcing them. Christian doctrine declared that the twain shall be one flesh, giving husband and wife exclusive access to each other. Okay. Then when did the love enter the picture? Later than you might think. For most of human history, couples were brought together for practical purpose reason, not because they fell in love. In time, of course, marriage partners came to feel deep mutual love and devotion. But the idea of a romantic love as a motivating force for the marriage only goes as far as the Middle Age. So it was in the Middle Age that a romantic marriage started. It also say, naturally, many scholars believe that the concept was invented by the French. Okay, it is a model was the knight who felt intense love for someone else's wife, as in the case of Sir Lancelot and the King Arthur's wife, and Queen Guinevere. 12th century advice literature told men to woo the object of their desire by praising her eyes, her lips, and her hair. In the 13th century, Richard de Fourneval, physician to the kings of France, wrote Advice on Love, in which he suggested that woman cast her love filtration glance anything but frank and open in entirety. Did love change marriage? Well, it is sure did. Marilyn Yalom, a Stanford historian and author of the History of the Wife, credits the concept of romantic love with giving women greater leverage, in which what had been a largely pragmatic transaction. Wife no longer existed solely to serve men. The romantic prince, in fact, sought to serve the woman he loved. Still, the notion that the husband's own the wife continued to hold sway for the century. So in this time, um, it was like it says here, the concept of romantic love would be given to the woman's greater. It will be giving a woman's greater leverage. So this is basically when it started. Okay. Let me see what else. How did this tradition change? Women won the right to vote. Then, when that happened in 1920, so it goes back to 1920, institution of marriage began a dramatic transformation. Suddenly, each union consisted of two full citizens, although tradition dictated that the husband still ruled the home. By the 1960s, state law forbidding interracial marriage had been thrown out. And the last state, and this is the most, this is the part that is most important. Last state had dropped laws against the use of birth control by the 1970s. The law finally recognized the concept of marital rape, which, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that word, but it's grape, which up to that point was inconceivable, as the husband owned his wife sexually. The idea that marriage is a private relationship for the fulfillment of two individuals is really very new, said the historian Stephanie Kuntz, author of The Way We Never Were, American Families and the Nostalgia Trap within the past 40 years. Marriage has changed more than in the last 5,000 years. So that's pretty much, and then this other part I'm not going to be touching because it talks about the men who marry men. So that's another story for it, but that's the basic principles of marriage. Now, here's the thing. And this is why I believe that you need to be careful as a man, because yes, it might not be for love and religion, but religion, as we see, as I'm going to show you, it have embraced it. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to show you how marriage was embraced by different religions. Let me see, not this one. How marriage was embraced by different religions. First, starting up, we're going to go ahead and check out the Catholic Church. This right here is a Wikipedia webpage that talks about marriage. So in the Catholic Church, the first thing that you need to understand on Christianity before we hit the churches is that marriage, the Christianity itself preferred men who are single over men who are married. Okay? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that again. Christianity, the Christian church, preferred at the beginning men who are single over men who are married. And here is what I'm talking about. No, let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it at? Hold on. Let me see. Polygamy, Old Testament. This is a very extensive document they were talking about. It says here, let me see. it says here something about the fathers of okay, the reason why the church uses marriage as an example is because they are trying to portray, or they're trying to mirror or give an example of Jesus. Jesus used the image of marriage and family to teach the basics about the kingdom of God. Okay, that's one thing that is very important. That's why most of the if you read the Bible, you're never gonna find any trace of like Jesus being married to someone or to somebody, because he was a single man. But the teachings of Christianity was based upon that he was going to come in, and then he was going to take his church and everything like that. But here's is one of the things that the Apostle Paul says. It says the Apostle Paul quote passages from Genesis almost verbatim in two of his New Testament books. He used marriage not only to describe the kingdom of God as Jesus has done, but to define also the nature of the first century Christian church. The theological views was a Christian developed of the Old Testament parallel between marriage and relationship between God and Israel. Okay, so the Christian church was very much geared towards the union of marriage, and that's what the doctrines were. But it also say, recognize on his own singleness, yet here it is. Yet Paul acknowledged the mutuality of marital religion, and he recognized that his own singleness is a particular gift from God that others may not necessarily have. He writes, now to the unmarried and the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I am. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to be burned with passion. Okay? So that's how he puts it. And he regards, he have high regards for singleness, and than being person of being married. So it actually puts us as a particular gift from God. Here's another example. It says that the church fathers place less value on the family, and so celibacy and freedom from family ties as a preferable state. So as you can see, it is much better to be single in Christianity, at least in the old Christians, than to be married. Okay? Another thing that it says here on the marriage, how you can find happiness, is both Tertullian and Gregory of Nyssa. Tertullian was a priest that it was married, okay, at the time, and he actually wrote the Christian. He wrote the Bible in Latin. The Gregorian of Nyssa it actually refers to, let me see, it actually refers to the passage, some passages on the actual Bible. It says Gregory of Nyssa, also known as Gregory Nyssen, was a bishop of Nyssa from 372 to 376, and from 378 until his death. It says that the Book of Art depict that on that day, on the day of the Pentecost, there were visiting Jews who were residents of Cappadocia. So he was known as a Cappadocian father, one of the collectively known as a Cappadocian father. Okay. So it says also that that the first epistle of Peter, written after AD 65, that the author greets Christians who were exiled scattered around Cappadocia. So he was some type of a leader in the Cappadocia country. So here's what these both entities and those people said, those men said. It says both Tertullian and Gregory of Nyssa were church fathers who were married. They, both of them, each stress that happiness of marriage was ultimately rooted in misery. Saint fathers of Christianity, they're telling people, look, if you get married, you have to understand that your happiness, it's going to be rooted in misery. Okay? It's telling you something. Hello? All right. With that said, after I'm telling you all these things, we're going to go into the different types of church. Roman Catholic says today all the Christian denominations regard marriage as a sacred institution, a covenant. Roman Catholics consider to be sacrament. Marriage was officially recognized as the sacrament at the 1184 Council of Verona. Before then, no specific ritual was prescribed for celebrating a marriage. Marriage vows did not have to be exchanged in a church. Then a little bit down below it says, in the decree of marriage of the Council of Trent, 24 sessions from 1563, the validity of marriage was made depend upon the wedding taking place before the priest and two witnesses. Although the lack of a requirement for parental consent ended a debate that had proceeded from the 12th century. In the case of a divorce, the right of the innocent party to marry again was denied so long as the other party was alive, even if the other party had committed adultery. Okay, they were very strict back then in the 12th century. Another thing that that says what is the purpose of being married. It says also that in the Roman Catholic teaching, marriage has two objectives. The good of the spouses themselves, that's one. And the second one is the procreation and education of children. Now here's what is interesting. Hence, entering marriage with the intention of never having children is a grave wrong and more than likely grounds for an annulment. Okay, that's what the Catholic Church says. Yes, you can get married as long as you provide and bring children into this world. If you enter marriage without without the intentions of not having children, you ain't gonna get married in the Catholic Church. Okay, they will annul your marriage. Okay, the other one, Protestantism, and check this out. That was Catholic. Now the Protestant says essentially all Protestant denominations hold marriage to be ordained by God for the union between a man and a woman. Fantastic. They see the primary purpose of these unions to be intimate companionship. Here we go again. Rear children and mutual support for both husband and wife to fulfill their life calling. Those are the Protestants. Okay? We go a little bit down. And those are the roles and responsibility. Here's another one. Eastern Orthodoxy. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, marriage is treated as a sacred mystery, sacrament, and as an ordination. It serves to unite women and men in the eternal unit before God. It refers to its century of church with spiritual unions of spouses. In the first sacrament, marriage was eternal. Therefore, it is considered here we go, martyrdom. It was considered a martyrdom, as each spouse learned to die to self for the sake of others. Little bit down, and let me let it sink in for a minute. Let it sink in. All right. The bend down says marriage is an icon, an image of a relationship between Jesus and the church. This is somewhat akin to the Old Testament prophet use of marriage as an analogy to describe relationship between God and Israel. Marriage is the simplest, most basic unity of the church, a congregation where 2 or 3 are gathered together in Jesus' name. The home is considered a consecrated space. The ritual for the blessing of the house is based upon that of the consecration of the church. And the husband and wife are considered the minister of the congregation. However, they do not perform the sacrament of the house church. They live the sacrament of marriage, because marriage is considered to be a pilgrimage. And what does a pilgrimage means? According to the word pilgrimage is a pilgrimage is a journey, often into an unknown or foreign place, where a person goes in search of new or expanded meaning about their self, other natures, or a higher good through the experience. It can lead to a personal transformation. Okay, so it was considered a pilgrimage, wherein the couple walks side by side toward the kingdom of heaven. Okay? But what it seems to, what I see a lot is that in the early churches, they were in the early time of Christianity, they was preferred a man who was single to a man who was married. Now, before the 1960s, I have the understanding that even the government, as you can see, the government give you some tax advantage to be a married guy or a married couple. Okay, so society itself is basically, along with the church, was pushing the marriage thing. And you know why? Because they need babies. Okay, that is the reason why the society needs baby. Until now, they need baby. Why? Because they have a national debt to pay. Okay, and that national debt is it's trillions of dollars high, and somebody's got to pay that debt. And that is the reason why, ever since Christians, the Christian church, and the society as a whole has been pushing marriage. Okay, and somehow they're gonna go ahead and get their money, either through court, either through taxes, or either through either through court, or either through taxes, or either through your kids. Okay, somebody's got to pay that debt. Okay, so that is one thing that you as a person need to understand. Okay, last but not least, in Christianity, here, non-traditional denominational church, is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint. They do the same thing. Okay, in the teachings of the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint, celestial eternal marriage is a covenant between a man and a woman, and God performed by the priest authority in the temple of the church. Celestial marriage is intended to continue forever into the afterlife if the man and the woman do not break their covenant. Thus, an eternally married couple are often referred to as being sealed to each other. Now, have you ever noticed that when you actually marry someone, in your credit, you're not considered as two people? Your buying power in your credit when you're married diminished to one. That's another thing that I have noticed. That's my experience. So you're no longer one person having this much credit. Your buying power just diminished to half when you get married. Once you get married to somebody else, your buying power just diminished half. Instead of going for two, it goes and diminishes to half. And that's what I see, and that's my experience. Because, like, let's say, for example, if you're married, if you're going to buy a house or you're going to buy a car, people that you are, when you use a credit card, when you use a loan or something to buy something, they're gonna ask if your husband or your wife it agrees with that. Okay, that's another thing that you have to take in consideration. Now, let me see what else. Jehovah's Witness also says view marriage to be a permanent arrangement with only the possible exception being adultery. Divorce is strongly discouraged when the adultery is committed, since the wronged spouse is free to forgive the unfaithful one. There are provisions for domestic separation in the event of failure to provide for one's household. and domestic violence or spiritual resistance for the part of the partner. Okay? Married persons who are known to commit such acts may in fact lose privileges in the congregation, as they are supposed to be setting good example for the congregation. All right, so those are the particular views on different Christian churches in the marriage. All right, another thing that you need to understand about marriage is the theological views. Now, the theological views, you have three types of theological views. You have the Christian egalitarian view, you have the Christian complementarian view, and you got the biblical patriarchy view. Okay, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tell them real quick about it. Okay, the Christian egalitarian view, they believe in equality, partnership of the wife and husband, with neither being designed as the leader in the marriage or family. Now, we all know that this is not going to work. Okay, and I'm going to tell you in a minute. Christian complementary prescribe husband headship, a male-led hierarchy. These core beliefs call for a husband loving, humble headship in the wife, intelligent, willing submission to headship without necessarily using the term obey. Okay, take that another thing in consideration. They believe women have different but complementary roles and responsibilities in the marriage. All right, take that in consideration. Now, the biblical patriarchy. Okay, the biblical patriarchy. You have to understand that, and I don't think that's exactly what the feminists are really they don't like. Okay, they don't like that one. It says, though not all popular among mainstream Christians prescribe a strict male dominant hierarchy, this view makes the husband the ruler over his wife and his household. The organization's first thing is that God reveals himself as a masculine, not feminine. God is eternal Father and the eternal Son. The Holy Spirit is also addressed as his, and Jesus Christ is a male. They consider that husband, father, to be sovereign over his household. Okay, the family leader, provider, and protector. Okay, they call for the wife to be obedient to her head, and that's fine in that particular paragraph. But if you go down a little bit further and you really want to look what patriarchy it's all about, let me show you. If you look down a little bit further, what patriarchy is all about, it teaches you the whole real thing about egalitarianism. Okay, the whole real thing about the complementarian view, and the whole real thing about the biblical patriarchy. Okay, the patriarchy model of marriage is clearly the oldest one. It characterized the theological understanding of most Old Testament writers. It mandates the supremacy, at times the ultimate denomination, of a husband father in the family in the first century Roman Empire, in the times of Jesus, Paul, and Peter. It was the law of the land and gave the husband absolute authority over his wife, children, and check this one, Slaves. Slaves. Even the power of life and death, it subordinates all women. Now, I don't, I don't know about you, but I don't think, we're living in the modern times, and I don't think that nobody wants to be a slave of anybody. Okay? It's my point of view, I understand the fear of the fear of that view towards other people, because you're talking about going back to slavery. And as far as I know, in today's world, being a sex slave, it's a crime. Okay? So we're going back over here, and we're going to go ahead and check out this view, these three views. Okay? You get the Christian egalitarian view, and this is my point. You got the Christian egalitarian view, everybody's equal, but there's no structure. You got the Christian complementarian view, okay? Which, in Christian complementarian view, what is happening here is that one is complementary to another without using the word obey, okay? So, basically, the husband headship needs to learn to be a leader. Okay? And then you got the biblical patriarchy with the slave things. And that person basically is the sovereign, the husband would be the sovereign owner of his household, and he will have control over life and death of the people that he controls. I'm talking about slavery. And as far as I understand, I don't think that slavery has been abolished for a long time. Nobody wants to be a slave, much less a sex slave. Okay? So, with that said, in my view, even though I have an egalitarian view, right? But I also understand the power of I also understand the power of groups. As a leader, you must understand the power of group. You see, when you have a group of two people, if there's no structure, you don't go anywhere. You gotta have a structure so you can go somewhere. Somebody's gotta be a leader, and somebody's gotta be a follower. Even if there's nothing that you, that they're signed on paper, when people gather, you see who the top dog, or you see who the top person is, or the alpha dog, or the alpha male is. You see, if there is a structure, we as human beings are conditioned to have structure in order for us to move somewhere. Okay? And that is one thing that a person, or males, in my view, need to take in consideration. Now, egalitarianism means that the best idea, you use the best idea. And that's what egalitarianism means to me. So there's no patriarchy and there's no matriarchy. The best idea is the one we're going to be using. Now, you cannot I believe that in order for you to have an idea, the best idea, based on, human behavior, we all have a structure. So the best idea, in my opinion, is to be a Christian complementarian. Understand that we all know that women want leaders. They don't want followers for themselves. They look for the alpha. Okay? They look somebody to lead them. And that's what I believe that we are lacking of. Now, if you really want to go ahead and look at the Bible, the actual code that we're talking about, it's right here in Ephesians 5. Ephesians 5, 21 to 33. All these verses from 21 to 33, what it says is that the husband must love their wives, and the wife must respect their husbands. In anywhere, you can read the Bible from top to bottom, but I have in my readings, I have not found anywhere in the Bible that says that wife, when they marry, they must love their husbands. It is not a requirement for them to love their husbands, but it is a requirement for them to respect their husband. And that's what I believe that it's unclear to most people out there. That the husband must love their wives, and the wife must respect their husband. The wife is not required to love their husband. They must respect them. Okay? So that is what's happening. If you love someone, you're not gonna hurt her. You're not gonna hurt that person. Okay? So, but you need to have some type of some type of approach. Okay? But if a wife tells you, you gotta respect me, she's communicating something wrong. She doesn't know how to communicate in the right way, so you can, so you can say, wait a minute, hold on, something's wrong. You see? And that's what's happening nowadays. There's a lot of women out there that they're just like telling you, you must respect me. You must respect me. And that code, that word respect is like, oh, man, she's supposed to respect me. And I'm supposed to love her. So those are my findings. Now, in conclusion, like I said, there are three Christian views for marriage: the egalitarian, the complementarian, and the biblical patriarchy. You need to decide which view you will use if you decide to marry. Now you have to understand that the marriage is a pilgrimage, that the marriage is something that it's a higher calling, something bigger than you and your spouse. And until you do not receive that higher calling, I don't think that you should be married. Okay, now marriage is a marriage, in my opinion, it's only for people that are religious. It's only for them. Why? let's put it this way. If you have never opened up a Bible or the Torah, which is the 5 first books of the Bible, or the Quran, then you have no business getting married because you're not trained. You're not conditioned. You shouldn't do it. It requires a lifetime commitment. It is not a financial investment. Now, let me know in the comments below, what do you think about my findings? I'd like to know your opinions about it. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, click subscribe, and the notification bell for more content like this. I will see you the next time. This is Mr. J signing out. Peace.
Two can play that game.
Because you are a joke. You're a joker.